So again, welcome everyone. And my name is Deborah Burton. I'm your host and moderator today, and I'm the managing director of the DevOps Agile Skills Association, or as we like to say, DASA. I am really very pleased to be joined by a great team of contributors to our DASA Competence Model. You'll have the opportunity, and I'll introduce them in more detail at the time that they're actually presenting. But just let me give a shout out and say hello, Frederick, Rick, Gwendolyn, and Teo. So glad you could all join us.
Hello, Deborah.
Hi.
Hello. So we put together what we hope is a very interesting and robust agenda for you. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk to you a little bit, for those of you that are new to DASA, about the DevOps Agile Skills Association. Frederick is going to talk about our principles, the DASA DevOps principles, and how they guide us. We'll also have Rick talk about the DASA Competence Model and our qualification scheme. We'll also be joined by Teo and Gwendolyn, that are the architects of our new DASA DevOps Practitioner. And they're going to talk about the skills needed to become a DevOps practitioner and what the course covers and why it's important. Now, we'll have plenty of time, as I mentioned earlier, for Q&A, and also I'll share some upcoming events that will be coming your way. So why don't I get started? Let me talk a little bit about the DevOps Agile Skills Association. So as you can see on this slide, DASA is an independent and open association that supports the development of high-performance IT organizations. And we do that through Agile DevOps initiatives. And it's about really creating a global initiative for competence that benefit individuals and teams and organizations. And we really do this by offering thought leadership as well as practical guidance for competence development. Now, what I'd like to do so that we can get started and the real meat of this webinar for you is turn it over to Frederick. But before I do that, I'd just like the opportunity to introduce him. So Frederick Shucken, a senior consultant at Quentin Wellington Redwood, is a passionate person in regard to DevOps, and he's also very passionate about helping customers to adopt what we call disruptive thinking. He really believes it helps in the creation of high-performance IT by embracing DevOps and lean IT principles. He's a very experienced IT guy with 20 plus years in business. He loves helping businesses to adopt DevOps methodologies, break out that rigid traditional way of working, move to customer-focused lean and agile approaches to create high-performing teams. He's a real strong business focus, and if you know him, you'll know that he has a no-nonsense approach, but he's hard on results and flexible on methods. He's a member of our DASA editorial board, and I'm so pleased that he's here today. Over to you, Frederick.
Thank you, Deborah. Happy to be here. Especially happy with the launch of our DevOps Practitioner. Because to me, if you look at DevOps, I think DevOps is about doing stuff, right? It's about not reading about it and about theories without bringing it into practice. I mean, if you embark on your own DevOps journey, or maybe people in the audience already did embark on a DevOps journey. In my experience, it's all about the journey you set out on, the things you do, the experiments you do, the mistakes you make, the things you learn. And that's, I think, is where our DevOps Practitioner course comes in to help you with that. And if you look at DASA, and you would ask us what we think is DevOps, then what we normally do is talk about our 6 principles. Because to us, DevOps is about experience, ideas, and a culture to create this high-performing IT. And high-performing IT organizations is something that I think most organizations on their DevOps journey try to achieve. And without going into what actually a high-performing IT organization would achieve performance-wise. Let's talk a little bit about what we feel are the 6 key principles, sort of the core ingredients you need in order to arrive at this culture of high-performing IT. And I think our practitioner course really is helpful in developing competences for everybody involved to help in that journey. But that's something that Rick, Gwendolyn, and Theo will talk about later on in this webinar. For me, I think we should dive briefly into these six principles, because we feel that adopting and sort of migrating towards these principles, bringing them into practice, is what is key to achieve this high-performing culture. And if you look at the principles, then I think each principle on its own probably will have some recognition, some things that maybe some organizations are already doing, but combine all 6 at the same time, they become this very powerful guidance, sort of the total that is bigger than the sum of the parts. So let's dive into principle 1. Principle 1 is customer-centric action. Because we feel that with all the disruption and digital transformation and things that go on in the marketplace today, it's increasingly important to really understand the value your customer is seeking, and that serving that customer is key in all the actions that you're doing as an organization or as a team. So to us, customer-centric action as a principle means creating short feedback loops. Validated learning, building multiple viable products, changing maybe your whole strategy when the needs are right. And especially, I think it is imperative nowadays to have short feedback loops with real customers and users. So being able to deliver value quickly as a minimal viable product or a new increment or an innovative element directly into the hands of end users and customers is vital for creating the value that is wanted. And for that, you need to learn how to innovate, but you also need a culture of courage. You need courageous people who are capable of doing stuff this way. And that brings us to the second principle, and that is create with the end in mind. And that means basically that you have to organize yourself and start thinking more as a product company, like all startups nowadays. So no more focus on internal processes, overhead, waterfall, and things like that. You need to focus on collaboration. You need to have an engineering mindset to focus on maybe your own part in a whole development process, but you need to be aware, just as everybody else, what the end product in the end should be. And it requires a engineering mindset and of course a very strong collaboration within your team, within your organization. So that's the second principle. If we then move to the third, it of course builds upon the second one. And creating with the end in mind, the second principle immediately implies a responsibility that is taken up by the people in your organization, by the teams. And we at DASA, we feel we go even one step further. We think that throughout the whole life cycle of a product or a service, what you need is ownership and accountability by your teams. So no silo-based behavior, no handovers, not pointing to other teams or vendors or partners. No, it's your service, your responsibility responsible for everything that is happening to that service. So that's why we feel that this is about living up to your accountability end to end during the whole life cycle. We call that concept to the grave. And it's just also this not only about developing new stuff, but also offering the support when running the product and running the service when it's used by our customers. And in this caring about the end-to-end responsibility might be the most crucial ingredient we think for DevOps. Because when people care and have the skills, knowledge, and resources to live up to that responsibility, we think great stuff is automatically sort of happening. Doesn't mean it's easy, but great stuff I think do tend to happen. And that brings us to the next principle. Because if you look at principle 4, then we need to talk about cross-functional autonomous teams. Because this responsibility that we talked in and that we addressed in principle 3, it requires autonomy. Teams should be able to deliver value to their customers, to the business, by, for example, delivering new versions of a software product multiple times a day, instead of only maybe once each month or 2 times a year. And they should be able to do so without being dependent on other teams. And they should have the autonomy to do anything that is necessary to make and to live up to their responsibility. But that also means, and this is where the DASA training curriculum comes in, means that the team needs to have a balanced set of knowledge and skills, competences. And that's why we developed the DASA Competence Framework. And after we talked about the principles, Rick will take us on a short deep dive into the competence framework. Because we firmly believe, and that's what we see reflected in the market nowadays, that the transition and the DevOps and the journey towards DevOps goes hand in hand with a redesign of IT roles and responsibilities. So no more very small specialists who only are very knowledgeable about one aspect within the whole development process, but you need to have more generic developed people with engineering skills and a certain set of soft skills that we address in the practitioner course. And of course, a prime focus on all the DASA DevOps principles. So that brings us to the principle number 5, because these cross-functional autonomous teams, one thing that they need to master is continuous improvement. And we feel this is a dominant concept. It's of course borrowed from the lean movement, and it's not completely new, but in this context, it's really important to have this focus on adaptability and learning. So teams need to learn how to focus and do good experiments and experimentation, optimizing processes, minimizing waste, increasing speed, lowering cost, have an ease of delivery of new increments or new products. And only when they master all this stuff, then they can continuously innovate and create really fast feedback loops, solve problems, and help their colleagues and their organization win in the marketplace. And especially the experimentation bit is a very useful skill for teams to learn. Because we all know the motto of fail fast, learn fast, but it's not that easy. You need to learn how to do it in a way with validated learning. And of course, one of the elements within DevOps, which is really contributing to continuous improvement, is automation. And we feel that within a team doing DevOps, one of the principles should be automate everything you can. We sometimes call DevOps the ultimate search for flow within IT, and automation is a very big part in achieving that. So we feel automating everything you can, it will not only increase speed, it will help flow, it will enhance quality, and it's a very strong principle to bring improvements to the organization and to the team. So basically, you've got 6 principles. Some more new to people than others, but if you combine these 6 principles, we feel that that is the essence of doing DevOps. Not easy, but that is what you should master. And in that way, we feel when developing the fundamentals and the practitioner that we offer something to all students. And we always say, well, join this new breed of IT organizations. I mean, things are changing, and we hope that people will follow these principles and master DevOps. That was my short introduction of the 6 principles, Deborah. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Frederick. And yeah, I always like it when we start talking about our principles, because fundamentally, they are what drive us, and what we believe helps organizations and individuals get the skills and knowledge that they need to build effective DevOps teams. So thank you, Frederick, for that presentation. What I'd like to do now is we're going to talk a bit about our DASA DevOps Competence Model. I'm really pleased to be joined by Rick Fahrenhorst, who is a business unit manager at Xavier. But Rick is also a crucial part of our DASA editorial board and one of the first people that came and began to think about what our competence model and qualification scheme should look like. So before I turn it over to Rick, I'd just like to take the opportunity to introduce Rick. Rick has more than 10 years of experience in the business IT domain. He guides organizations as well as individuals in making IT simpler and better and of higher quality. Currently, Rick works as the business unit manager of the IT Architects business unit at Xavier. As I mentioned, he's a part of our editorial board, and he really helped define the core foundations of DASA that include our DASA principles, which we live by, and our competence framework, which is the basis for professionalizing DevOps knowledge and skills. So, Rick, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm just going to make sure that you have the ability to move the slides, and now I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Deborah. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining this webinar, and I'm privileged to continue the talk on DASA after a great introduction by Frederick on the principles. That brings us indeed to the competence model and what we envisioned with it when we started DASA. And before I dive into the model itself, let me start by explaining a little bit of the rationale for starting with the DevOps Agile Skills Association, because we see in the market that there are a lot of things happening around DevOps. If you look only at the job market, for example, we see that many of thousands of jobs will be needed related to the word DevOps. But at the same time, fairly little is known about what it actually means, DevOps, what it should be. Some people talk about it's a framework or a method or even a product. We feel it's more about building a culture of high-performance IT organizations, but still then, what does it really entail? And what should people do and what should they know before they can be successful in DevOps? This was our main mission to start off this journey. And we want to help define and advance the state of the practice, so the profession of DevOps practitioners. And that's why DASA is also a community-driven concept, and many parties already involved in developing the trainings and lecturing them. Because the key question for many IT professionals in the field nowadays is, okay, I see these trends like Agile, Lean, and now also DevOps popping up. What kind of competences do I need to flourish in this world? What do I need to know? What should I do? And this is actually very relevant for a lot of people, because if you look at traditional or newer organizations, you have all kinds of organizational charts, functions, or roles popping up. This is constantly switching. And people need to stay on track and understand, of course, what they can choose from. At the same time, it's a typical supply-demand problem. We have a lot of IT professionals on the job market, and we want not by every new trend or buzzword to make them irrelevant and grow a new generation of professionals. We want them to stay on track and to be doing relevant work. But this matchmaking between supply and demand is actually what we aim for with DASA and with the competence framework. So we've thought of what is really underpinning of the 6 principles needed in terms of knowledge and skills to be effective and successful in DevOps. And that's also why we focus on knowledge and skills and the development of that. It's not just a concept, it's also about doing it in practice. And particularly the latter is the subject of our practitioner course, which is highlighted in this webinar later on. Another main thing to emphasize, depicted here on the bottom left, is the word role-based. We believe that traditional organizations are much more focused and oriented in silos, while in the new way of working, if you follow the 6 principles, as Frederick nicely explained, we have autonomous teams who take ownership of the stuff they build and they bring to customers. And in those teams, you need a lot of knowledge and skills and a lot of roles to be taken up. But these are not necessarily each time different people who play that role full time. So that is different than the traditional separation of functions. For example, the tester, who is doing only testing, is now getting deprecated. You see this in many organizations happening. That's not to say that testing is not important. On the contrary, software developers need to start actually by defining test specifications before they actually write code. That's one of the practices we aim for. So the role of a tester is still very important, but is it a separate function? We beg to differ. If you then look at what kind of knowledge and skills do you need in an effective DevOps team? So when we focus on the team level, we came up with 12 areas that are crucially important. 8 focus around knowledge areas and 4 of them are more about skills. And if you look closely, I will not dive into the details in this webinar on all areas individually, but if you look at the left side in the reddish color, you see that we really tackle all the concepts from an end-to-end lifecycle perspective. Some of them focus really on the business analysis phase and what kind of value do we bring to customers in the end and how to optimize that. Then we need to translate those requirements and needs to proper architecture and design, of course. We have to develop the system. We can put stuff in place to make sure that all those solutions are delivered continuously and effectively, for example, by following continuous delivery principles. And if we have an IT infrastructure in place, then things will be much easier than when we have to wait for a more traditional IT operations department, for example. And lastly, security, risk, and compliance is getting more and more important, especially now that we outsource parts of our IT, for example, in the cloud. So in the team, for example, 5 to 7 people, or at most 9, you have in the typical Agile or DevOps team, you need all those capabilities present. Not everybody needs to be an expert in all of them, but we believe there should be a basic skill level for each of them and a basic competency for all. In addition to the knowledge areas, we see there are 4 skill areas, and we believe they relate heavily to the 6 principles highlighted earlier. Courage stands for the experimentation mindset and the willingness to learn by doing, to fail, experiment, and to grow as an individual and organization as a result. Team building, focus more on the team level, and it literally says that, of course, focus on collaboration and complementing each other instead of focusing solo on one specific task. Leadership is an important part, often forgotten in organizations who say or state they do Agile or DevOps. We have encountered in practice many times that when there is no proper mandate and servant leadership style in place, then most initiatives will fail anyway. So the leadership angle is important as well. And for each and everybody involved in a DevOps transformation, you need also the continuous improvement mindset, which is one of the principles as well. So those 12 areas together, you can wrap up in a spider web, as we see at the right side here. That means that you can develop yourself in multiple, on at least 12 areas in parallel. And some people will maybe stick a bit more to the business analysis phase. Others will be a bit more from the operations side of town, so they focus a bit more on infrastructure engineering and become more specialized. But the core of DASA is that on the team level, and therefore in our competence framework, people are stimulated to build a broad frame of reference. And that is also the reason why the courses in our qualification program focus on these topics in the broader sense of the word. So we see that the DevOps Fundamentals course that we started with last year covers in 3 days all the knowledge and skill areas that I just explained, and builds a broad basis on to get at a competent level, at least to understand the main concepts, so that people know not just everything from one topic, but know sufficiently from all to work effectively together and to build really this culture that we talked about. The practitioner course, which Gwendolyn and Theo will highlight in more detail in a minute, builds on this fundamentals course and focuses more on the skill levels that you need to embrace and live by to actually put all the concepts alive and bring them to practice. To grow more into an expert level within the DASA framework, we have come up with several expert level courses. Some of them are already under development, and they help you grow for a specific part of the model I just highlighted. So this is a track that you can choose to specialize yourself further.
Well, Rick,
I'll leave it to that, Deborah.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I always, when we talk about the qualification program and we talk about the competence model, I think the key thing is that we're really thinking about how to build the skill sets that individuals and teams need to be effective in this new dynamic DevOps world that's causing so much disruption out there. So I appreciate very much you taking the time and taking our audience through that. So now what I'd like to do is actually have an opportunity to introduce you to Theo and Gwendolyn. So before I turn the presentation over to kind of the stars of the show today, talking about our new DASA DevOps Practitioner course, let me take just a couple seconds to introduce you to each of them. So let me tell you a little bit about Gwendolyn Brink. Gwendolyn is a senior consultant at Quint Wellington Redwood, and she focuses on lean IT, DevOps, and Agile. She's also a trainer in Agile and Scrum and DevOps. And prior to joining Quint, she spent 10 years working for ING, building the new way of working and helping teams become more focused and create value with her Agile coaching. Her motto is, creating high-performing teams is by searching for people's purpose and connecting it to the team goals, which I think is a very admirable motto to work by. A little bit about Theo. Theo Gertz is a senior consultant at Sabia. And Theo has a rich experience. He's worked in various IT roles, such as a developer, tester, enterprise architect, a business analyst, project manager, a trainer, a coach. He has experience with a number of Agile DevOps methodologies, such as Scrum, Kanban, XP, and Lean, and much more. Theo is also the author of a book, a pocket guide for Agile organizations. It's available in Dutch, but we hope to see it coming out in English very soon. And his motivation is in helping to create highly effective organizations using DevOps Agile philosophy. So Theo, Gwendolyn, welcome. Our audience is eager to hear all about this new qualification, DASA DevOps Practitioner.
So thank you, Deborah, for your nice introduction. I've always wanted to be a star, of course, so thank you for that. So as Rick already stated, the DevOps Practitioner course is really building upon the DevOps Fundamentals course that's already received well in the market. And saying with Frederick, DevOps is about doing. So we want to do stuff with this, and the Fundamentals course gives you a lot of theory. It's a very interesting course, but we want to practice this as well. So we created the DevOps Practitioner course to really focus on the skills of people working together, and the contents is much less theory and much more pragmatic exercises where you can really practice how you can perform and how you can do the DevOps mindset instead of just learn about it in theory. Rick also explained that it's about the skills of the DASA framework, and Gwendolyn will go into a little bit more detail now.
Thank you, Theo, and also thank you, Deborah, for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here and to take you through the DevOps practitioner journey, and also thank you for joining our webinar. As Theo just mentioned, the DevOps practitioner course is built up on the 4 skills areas, and these are related to the DevOps principles. It's not only important to have knowledge, but it's also about what skills do you need and to lead or to be in a DevOps team. So therefore, this practitioner course will not only focus on knowledge and information, but you will be given the tools and the practice that you really need. The 4 skills are worked out in a module, but extra to it, it's very important to focus also on value. How do you create value? What is important in it, and how to do it, and how to approach it. So therefore, we took the opportunity to create a separate module to show and teach how value can be created and how this is important. But it all starts with team building, isn't it, Theo?
Yes, of course. We are living in an ever faster changing world. Actually, it's going so fast that we cannot do as an individual everything that maybe in 20 years ago we could do it by ourselves. We really need the power and the brain power and the expertise of all our team members, of more than one person in the team, to get real high-performing results. And team building is, of course, about designing your teams. It's what people should be in your team, what skills do you need, what knowledge and experience do you need. But it's also about how do you get those people that are in the team really working together. How do you create synergy? How do you get them to really be a master of their expertises? And if you have such a team, then it's also about giving them guidance, letting them work together in a larger environment.
Yes, about designing and building teams. What is it all about? What do you really want to achieve? A high-performance organization, how do you get there? The first step in this is to create a high-performance team. But how do you create these teams around you? It's not only about knowledge, but also about the tools that will help you to create these teams. Because putting together individuals and hoping that they will just create any result is not good enough anymore. You really want to focus on the team and how do they get high performing. One of the main things that are important is trust. You need to have a basis of trust in the team. If they have that, then you can go further to shared norms and values. And it's also something that a team needs to grow. You need commitment and joint team responsibility. And in the end, if you do all these things, then you will go to getting results. And in this course, we will provide the knowledge and tools and the practices as well to really create these teams, to really create the high-performing teams. And these teams are, as much as they are self-organizing as possible, but they need also guidance, as Theo just told us.
Yes. So imagine that you have a high-performing team and that they are cross-functional, that they are autonomous, and really teams that are able to do their job. But still, imagine that they are able to doing the things right, but are they doing the right things? That's the question, because I've noticed, unfortunately, some teams that were really high performing in the sense of producing lots of quality products or services, but they weren't, valuable for the customer or the business. They were just doing, what they were very good at, but not what the customer or the business asked for. So guidance in this sense is very essential to high performing teams. And of course, on guidance level, you can say, okay, a team can do lots of things themselves. They are self-organizing, so in that sense they are also self-governing. But in the larger picture, when teams still need to do some things together with other teams, so they are not completely autonomous, completely alone in the world. Those cooperations between teams, they have to be aligned. There has to be guidance. There has to be governance to let them happen in the right way. And even further, around the organization or the company that the teams are working in, you have stakeholders, you have customers, you have clients, you have suppliers, you have people that take the product a little bit further. Also, these people have to work together to create, to co-create in the larger sense, a valuable product for their customers or for their companies, and those have to be governed as well. So one of the things that we are going into is, how do you talk about contracts? Do they still exist? And what form do they get? This is an important part of the larger picture of working together in teams. And of course, when you're talking about governance and guidance, you have to do things with leadership. Is that right?
Yes, I totally agree. Having your teams build up is one thing, but indeed you need to have kind of a leadership. If you want to create a high-performing team, you need different leadership, and more specific, DevOps leadership. This is maybe different than leaders did it the past 20 years. It's not only the traditional, but also very personal leadership. It is also about how to build up a DevOps culture. High-performing teams can only flourish in the right culture. And it's also how to create a purpose that a team really needs. We will teach and help you to gain these skills through the course. And also, which is very important, to be that servant leader a team really needs. To give the team really the attention and also the space they need. If you go then to the servant leader, the question is, how do you become one? How do you get there, and how do you want to get there? We will try to help to answer that question, not only by reading, but also by doing. So very practical things. And it's not about leadership how it was. It is about how to create the right environment for the teams to grow and to be autonomous. Stimulating the right behavior is more than saying to a team, you have to do this, or today you can do that. It's totally different. It's not about having control, because it's very safe to have control, but it's about giving control to the teams so that they can do the best they can and to be really high performing. Only then they can really give the best results and create the value. So when you want to create that high performing culture, you really need to focus on how can I give control to my teams? How can I not keep the control by myself, but create that culture that my teams can flourish in? So it's not only about giving control, it's about the way you will give the responsibility to teams that they really are eager to get that result. And also creating purpose is part of a high performance culture.
Yes, so I always say that leaders have to do two things. The one is they have to provide the right environment for being able to do the things in the best way possible. And the other thing is that they have to show the results. They have to create purpose for the people that work for them. You know, if you are a skilled set of teams together and you can do lots of things, but you don't have purpose, then, you know, we don't know for sure that what is created is really the valuable stuff that we would have expected. So purpose in that sense is a very important part of becoming successful as a team and as a team of teams. And on the other hand, it's also known from the psychological research is that purpose is really one of the key success factors in well-being of people. So when people feel well, when people feel happy, it's obviously better for them anyway, and also it's better for their performance in the organization they work for. So that's another reason why purpose is so important. Purpose is also related to one of the DevOps principles, create with the end in mind. You know, that's the purpose is, this is what we want to achieve. And so if you could say, okay, we boldly go where no one has gone before. You know, that's if we know where that is, then you will really get there and you will be really successful. And you know, therefore, it's important for teams to be purposeful, to really focus on what should be achieved, and then they can really go all the way in achieving what is expected and what is valuable from a client or a business side perspective.
And also, what Frederick already told is that your team also need courage. You need courage to be in a team or a DevOps leader. You need courage to create a high-performance team or to create a high-performance organization. It is so important to get out of your comfort zone and to get courageous people in a team. It is one of the most important skills of a DevOps team member. While it drives innovation, you need courage to have innovation, and innovation is needed in a high-performance organization. It is not about doing the things you do now best. It's about finding new things that will deliver more and better value. That's innovation. That's innovation we want, and to go to a high-performance organization. In this course, we will help you to gain the knowledge and the tools to set these first steps in creating more value.
Indeed, Gwendolyn, value is something that is so important in the Agile Lean DevOps world that we thought it would be a good idea to devote a special module toward it. And of course, it's much related to another DevOps principle, Customer-Centric Action, really doing what the customer expects and what the customer values. But of course, we don't need to look only at what the customer wants, because, you know, our stakeholders or our company has expectations of us as well. Value is such important. We don't. We really should look at continuously what is important to create and what is expected of us. So in all kinds of senses of value. You know, parts of value are quality. So qualitatively right stuff is valuable for people. Reducing risk is valuable. Adhering to the law is valuable. You know, all those aspects have to be in balance to give the right product or service to the people that we're working for. So that's really so essential for the DevOps way of thinking that it really merits its own module. And of course, not only do we have to deliver value now, but we also have to deliver value in the future. And maybe that's something else. Maybe people expect something else from us in the future. So we should be continuously looking at, are we doing the right things and are we doing them right? And the only way to do that is to continuously look at, okay, can we remove waste? Can we improve ourselves? Can we deliver even more flowing than before? And to be able to do that, we, of course, because this is the practitioner course, we provided some really pragmatic tools that can guide people and teams to gain insight in their improvement areas and to really build upon them and implement those improvements so that their performance will rise. And that's, of course, one of the real benefits of doing DevOps is that you're not only implementing, you know, just a framework or method, but you are really implementing a philosophy of continuously improving what you're doing, and this never stops. It's really a different. We are not being satisfied anymore with our standard way of working, and this is the best we can do. No, we are always trying to improve, and we're always trying to give more value than before. And that's why people who are thinking that way will be, you know, continuously successful, because they will grow, they will evolve, they will learn how to interact with their environment in a different way when that environment is changing.
Yes, thank you, Theo, for nicely explaining the last module and also the essentials of why this course is different and such important. Of course, you will have the question, how can I deliver this course? And like what Theo also just told, it's the course is really built up on the skills. It's related to the DASA principles, and it will not only have the information and knowledge, but also will help you to understand and get the right tools to become the DevOps leader or to work in a high-performing DevOps team. We focus on the things that are really important and that are really different. So be courageous. You have to be another leader. The team performance is so important. It's not that it was not focus on your task, but focus on the result. Focus on the high performance organization. That will be taught in this course, which is also based on a case study that will go through the whole course, and it will give you all the practical examples that you need. In total, it will be a 2-day course and concluded with an exam. And it also builds up on the fundamentals, and therefore it's a prerequisite to have a past exam of the fundamentals. So to know what is really important, you have to know what you want to achieve.
Yes, thank you, Gwendoline. So to summarize what we talked about, it's you know, we fundamentally believe that to be high performing, you need the skills to cooperate and to collaborate with other team members to leverage all your knowledge and experience. So you not only need knowledge and experience, but you need those skill areas that we defined in the DevOps framework, and then you will really become a high-performing team. Thanks, Deborah. This was our introduction to the course.
Well, thank you both, Gwendoline and Theo, for sharing the essence and the heart of our new DASA DevOps Practitioner course. What I wanted to share with you so that you know that we're going to be providing more information for you. We have some upcoming DASA events, what we called our 30-minute deep dive, where we'll have both Gwendoline and Theo spending some time giving you more information around practitioner. So we'll be announcing these webinars shortly. You see the dates there. I'm also going to be conducting, I get every day people interested in learning more about how to join our global movement, how to become a member. I'll be offering some, why join DASA webinars and join our global movement in the April and May timeframe. What I'd like to do is just thank each and every one of you for taking the time to join us today. I also like to thank our panel for really sharing with our audience not only the principles that drive us, the competence model and accreditation scheme that we stand by, but also really giving the audience the flavor for what practitioner is and why we believe it's so important when you're approaching how to get your handle around being competent in the area of DevOps. So I'd like to thank each and every one of you. Team, thank you so much for all of our presenters today. And we will be coming back to you with questions that we didn't get answered during this webinar. So we hope to see you again soon. I'd like to say thank you again. And if you have questions, you can contact us at info@devopsagileskills.org. Okay, everybody. Thanks for now. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.